Here we are at Channel 4's Game On event. We are set for a great evening with a panel of people ranging from school children to researchers to scriptwriters. Everyone is going to be talking about their online gaming experience.
A really incredibly broad bunch of folks, from television to librarians to academics to game designers and makers to other media types to, just really varied.
We just have to be aware, well, what are the learning outcomes here? How is that helping us to develop as human beings? Because I don't think anyone would want children and young people locked up sort of 12 hours a day online. That's not good either.
Shooting someone in the face with a rocket launcher ain't exactly very pleasing for someone that's a young viewer, if you get what I'm saying.
Narrative is crack. You get people on it and they just want to tell stories, just want to keep going all the time.
So rather than trying to put kind of old school laptops and desktop PCs, which after all will be redundant in the next 5 years, you might also use the technologies that kids are already using, like your Nintendos and your PSPs and your Wiis.
We're really interested in seeing what other people think in terms of the potentials of using games for education, for training, but really just as a storytelling medium.
Well, we've got guitar heroes in schools at this stage, and if you get the context right, they're still children after all. If you get it right, you suspend the disbelief.
I'm hoping to hear lots of fascinating things about games particularly. I'm working on a novel set in virtual worlds.
I'm interested in all kinds of unusual, things that are considered unusual in gaming, and having a story or having any kind of educational aspect is tragically still regarded as being not a central part of console gaming particularly.
I think I'd very much like to find out what the current thinking is around gaming culture.
The kind of games that Derek's put into classrooms in primary schools and high schools in Scotland, it's not linear at all. And sometimes it's creating the illusion of choice for the player, and sometimes it's offering genuine choice.
I'm very much about teaching and learning in the classroom. How can I use games to develop narrative and explore context for learning that might resonate more with learners than maybe the traditional context of school might not.
I'm really kind of hoping to get a good understanding of where maybe things are going in the future, and a good understanding of some of the arguments that are taking place around the role of games-based learning in the past.
I don't think this means that writing has to suffer. I think what it means is that we have to write them much the same way in which we compose the score for games.
My hope is that I'm going to learn a little bit more from this event, particularly in regard to literacy, and also find speakers for my next conference.
Every time there's something new, there's a big change and there's a big outcry.
It's a myth that video games are creating unsociable children, obese children, violent children. All these myths have been dispelled. It's highly collaborative.
Video games are often painted in a very bad way. They're not clever. They're not seen as educational.
One of the things that I think is really important to understand about gaming is that it's not a single thing. There's so many different types of games. There are very social games. There are very sophisticated games. There are very simple games. There are games with beautiful stories and there are games with no stories. Tetris has no story, but people love it.
I think it's interesting because I think the educators will be the children and young people, really, because they're the ones who know the technology and in the most part are creating these new games and are very much involved in that culture.
Reading and games can be interlinked. It's just got to find the right avenue to go into it.
Most children today learn to read from a video game.
I think a lot of people will go home and think about this more after the event.
There are a lot of different sort of perspectives up on stage.
I think the reason that we don't read long-form works off of screens is not because screens are poor quality, but because computers are perfect distraction engines that every 10 seconds want to tear your attention away.
How can we use what we learned tonight about gaming and platforms and interactions to get students on the road to using that to develop their learning?
One of the things I will take away from this is that games are a very varied medium. They're much more varied than I think people realise.
Games and education can actually be combined, and I think that games are another way for learning for students, because at the end of the day you learn visually other than just sticking to the plain old text.